guys, welcome to the Booster Pack. This is usually the show where we unwrap the stories and crack the mysteries of collectible game history, but not this time. This is actually a little mini episode excerpt from my previous interview with Bryan Winter. If you didn't see that, Bryan Winter is the designer of the Doom Trooper collectible card game and a whole bunch of others. If you didn't see our interview, I will link it in the description below, so that way you can check that out and learn what he's all about. But the interesting thing about Bryan is he was a CCG designer and is now a CCG retailer. And that gave him a unique perspective on a topic that is really surging through the minds of all lovers of collectible card games at the moment. That is the COVID-related boom in secondary market prices. There has been a huge rise in new collectible card game product prices, speculation on things like Pokemon, on brand new games altogether, like Flesh and Blood, MetaZoo, Digimon, soon-to-be Gate Ruler, all-time high prices on some of those products. And we were just interested what his perspective was, again, as that retailer piece, to see how they're experiencing it. He gives us some great insight. I'll leave the rest of that little interview question to sort of let him talk about it, but I will see you at the end for an outro to this little mini episode. Okay, bye for me. Again, see you in the outro. Okay, so what is your perspective? You have designed all these games all these years ago. You've got a game now that's still digitally alive, but now you've moved on to a new career, as we can see behind you, as a retailer. Collectible games, what, as a retailer, is your relationship with them now?
Right.
Like, you stock them?
I do. So, my store is very interesting. So I'm located in the Madison, Wisconsin area, and anyone who knows this area knows that we are very game centric here in Madison. We're sort of right in the middle of this sort of the U.S. sort of gamer belt, if you will, that stretches
Thank you, Gary Gygax.
Yeah, that stretches from Chicago through Lake Geneva, Madison, and up into Minneapolis, right? It's, a lot of the industry from Fantasy Flight to Catan is all kind of in TSR, all kind of in this little zone here. And so we're kind of smack dab in the middle of that.
And what's the name of your store?
I'm Board Games and Family Fun, BOARD. I'm Board, exclamation mark, Games and Family Fun.
Punny, I love it.
So where does that leave us with CCGs? At the very beginning, I had to, I had a good 10, 14, 15-year hiatus from the industry, of the inner workings of the industry. It's amazing how much didn't change, by the way, during that time. So it's like, okay, so let's see how Magic is now. Let's see how, Pokemon is still a thing. Wow, who knew? What's, Yu-Gi-Oh! And at the time, there's things like Card Fight Vanguard, and we were carrying, and as a new store, we were still trying to figure out who our people were and what our things were. As we are right now, 10 years down the road, I'm sitting in our second store, which is about 2 years old. My other store is more like 10. They're 20, 30 minutes away from each other on, if you take a look at Madison, we're on opposite sides of the town. And this store is much heavier in Magic, is much heavier in collectibles than the other one, which is still quite good. And it's growing over here. You look at Commander, it's much more a thing over here than it is over there. Everyone's got their own kind of little thing. So when you look at CCGs right now, there's a lot of stuff out there still, like I just mentioned a few: Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Flesh and Blood, and all the Bushiroad stuff and that kind of thing. Our store carries, we carry Magic, we carry Pokemon. We're just getting into Flesh and Blood when we can get it. And we're really good. We're really big in Keyforge. We do great with Keyforge. It's everything that I love about CCGs, and so many things that I don't like about CCGs are not in it. They've scraped out so many. Oh my God, I love it.
That's fantastic. All right.
So we do, when Keyforge was announced, I jumped down that rabbit hole hard. When the entire world was out of it, I had plenty. I bought tons of it. And as a result, the regionals were in our stores and all this other kind of stuff. A new set is releasing finally in about 2 weeks. And, I've got a lot of folks who are really itching to go. But the problem with Keyforge is you absolutely need partners to play that game, because just buying a deck doesn't, you're not collecting anything. So, so COVID is really screwing with that product. But yeah, I mean, CCGs are very healthy right now. They're a little too healthy. I mean, you've seen Pokemon shenanigans. It's bad. I mean, if we try not to market price here. We try not to say, like I said, we don't sell singles. We don't get into that whole secondary thing. And with the latest Pokemon stuff, I started to dip my toes into market pricing. And market pricing is, is pricing it to demand, not to what you would just normally buy it. If I buy it for $20, I'm going to sell it for 40.
Yeah.
But we got into this thing where we had these flippers coming in and taking advantage of our pricing and just buying our stuff and profiting on it. And I hate it. And because it's a kid's game and I don't have product, I've got kids coming in, little kids coming in every single day, and they can't buy any Pokemon because some 30-something person is flipping it on eBay, that kind of stuff. It's annoying.
Yeah. Well, I see that Target and big box stores have refused to sell it in the temporary interim.
Exactly. And good for them, because that kind of needs, I think that kind of needs to happen. Now, there are absolutely retailers out there who are listening to me say this right now and saying, I'm an idiot. I'm not making, there's money to be made. Why aren't I making it? Because it's a kid's game and I got little kids coming in and I'm not able to make them happy, that kind of thing.
There's an ethical conversation there, not just a business conversation.
It's exactly it. I've got thousands of other games I can sell people. I don't need to make an extra $20 on this box of Pokemon. So anyway,
and alienating people in the process.
Exactly. So it was very awkward and very hard to do. And it led to some difficult business decisions and how we approach that going forward is kind of remains to be seen. Right now, it's just like we're just getting scraps in and trying to sell them, when we can, and things like that. So it's very hand to mouth. But Magic is very strong. Pokemon's very strong. Yu-Gi-Oh! We tend not to do. We just special order it in for the community. Keyforge, we'll see. There hasn't been a new set in a long while, and we'll see how it goes. And Flesh and Blood, if I can get more, I'll take more. It's the thing that everyone else is going, oh, I don't know how much it's attributed to the game or how much is just the buzz, because there's a tremendous, Flesh and Blood is the most 90s CCG right now. They've got limited and unlimited sets coming out. And I just like, no, and other retailers are like, ching, that's awesome. And I'm just like, no, it's just, as this is where my game design chimes in, and I go, where I look at the mechanics and the design, and not as a retailer. I wear these weird sort of dual hat thing where I'm this pseudo designer, publisher, consumer, distributor guy, retailer guy, and how do I feel about all this stuff? It's pretty crazy.
So let's jump back a little bit. We were talking about. Let's ask you this question then, just to jump from where you went. What is just a quick overview, how has your perspective changed going from one of those rare positions where you've gone from a designer of collectible games to a retailer of collectible games? What has changed about your perspective? You sort of touched on it before when we were talking about the complexity. Can you just pinpoint maybe 2 or 3 things that have really changed about your appreciation in collectible games since?
Value, right? The word value has haunted me from my design days. I have never
literally in your games.
Yeah, well, yes, it's true. But kids, and when I say kids, it's everybody. People coming up to me and saying, "How much is this card worth?" I hate that question. Now I understand that there's an entire sub industry of our industry. The secondary market is there. It's real. It's powerful. And a lot of people love it. I personally don't. I love the LCG model, because if I want this set of cards, I buy this pack and I have my play set and I'm ready to play the game. It's very interesting because you look at some of my peers in retail, and I do not want to speak for any other store, right? What the things that I say are my opinions, right? And the gamut of other retailers goes from people who think just like me and people who think exact opposite of me, and they're all over the board, and I don't want to be presumptuous for any of those. So all that caveat being said, there are some retailers who got into this industry. They started magic stores before magic stores were even a thing, right? There's no, because I can make a lot of money, trading in this commodity.
Yep.
And
hashtag finance.
Yeah. And because that, as consumers, that was a really appealing aspect of the hobby for them. I have a Sarah Angel from this set. I have a Mox. I have a Black Lotus, and that's worth something beyond its value in the game. Right.
Yeah. Speculation.
Exactly. So, if I had my druthers, Magic 2.0 would come out and it would have a new card back and it would be an LCG format and it would tank, but it would, and the whole industry would erupt in flames, but but it would be a very interesting thing. I'm going a little beyond the pale there.
Edition versions of everything.
Because as a designer, I want people to play my game. I want game, and as a retailer, I am an evangelist of this industry. I want, and the reason that I opened a store that's a little bit more boutique-y than a gamer den is one of my absolute passions is bringing new people into our hobby from every walk of life. I don't care who you are. I don't care what how cool you were in high school. I don't care, how rich or poor you are. You have a seat at our table. And when you get into these petty little things about, what is this worth versus what's this worth and things like that, that's a whole separate thing that detracts from playing the game. I am I am a person, when I sit down to play a game, I want to play a game. I don't want to win a game. There's a big difference, right? Sure, I'll play my best, and if I win, awesome. But if I don't, this is one of the biggest lessons you can teach your child is being a good loser and being a good winner. And
gracious winner.
And so as a designer, I want people to play my games. As a retailer, I want all people to play games. And when you look at the collectible card game market and look those barriers to entry that I talked about and all that other kind of stuff, it's all getting in the way of people playing that game. Yeah. And so as I talk about things like, our prize structure is very flat and even when we have events, we have, things like that. It's all to make sure that people are playing the game and not worrying about just having a good time and not worrying about winning. And again, I want to absolutely reiterate that if you want to be super competitive and play with other super competitive people, awesome. That is fantastic. That is, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there's a whole lot of people out there who are not playing these games. You hear stories about, the kid coming down and sitting across from some person and they just get blistered with some crazy deck and they walk away and never play that game again because they've been embarrassed or they've been, humiliated or they've just been hurt as a kid. Not physically, but, I came in because I was so excited about playing and I left feeling awful, about this thing I thought I was going to feel so excited about. So, I mean, I'm kind of going all over the place, but it all culminates into my attitude towards CCGs in general, which is I wish they were less collectible and more game. If that makes sense.
Well, that points out to what you were saying before with Keyforge. Basically gives you the unique deck experience, but without the collectability. And LCGs, we also talked about the struggle there where people don't want to jump into something that has already got some wrinkles on it.
Absolutely.
There's already going to be, and those things, the people who are sticking with it are the ultra competitive people.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about Netrunner, it's run, fabulous game. But if someone is like, I heard this game, Netrunner is really, really cool. And suddenly, the game's been out for 2 or 3 years. And in order for you to be kind of kind of competitive, you have to buy, even though it's all LCGs and but there's still this many products you have to buy, and that's a barrier to entry.
And not all of it's in print.
Right. And Keyforge has virtually zero barrier to entry, which is why I love it so much. So yeah, anyway.
It is a revolution, and I hope that we see more like it utilizing a similar system. Okay, so let's just talk about a couple of things, because there's a couple of things in there that you sort of pointed out. Collectible card games are, like you said, going through a surge at the moment. There's a lot of interest. You said that Flesh and Blood was extremely popular in your store, but you don't know what the reality of it is, because nobody can play it, because they can buy the product.
Right.
They can speculate. Some people can speculate on it. Flippers can speculate on it, but there's no evidence as to what first edition and what unlimited edition is outside of the buzz.
Right. And
what is your take on that?
It all happened during COVID. So I've never seen anyone actually sit down and play the game. I've just got a number of customers who are extraordinarily interested in it for their own reasons. A couple of them I absolutely know they're playing it as much as they can because they love the game, and then those are the people that I listen to. That's the reason that we're carrying it, is because as a retailer, when you look at your consumers, your crowd, your people, your community, you start to sort of look at these people as resources and as sort of like touch points and things like that. If I know that this person likes this game or is interested, or they put a pre-order in for this game, that tells me a whole lot about how I'm going to stock that game. If just one person, and if one person and this one person both put in a pre-order, then I know, oh, this thing's going to be a hit.
You're on something.
It's really interesting.
And art, because of how they engage with the hobby themselves.
Definitely, an art, not a science, right?
Yeah.
And for Flesh and Blood, there's a couple of people, and I have not been able to carry very much of this game because there hasn't been much available. But we're going to try to get in as heavy as we can, and we won't be able to get that much in because a lot of people, a lot of other retailers have sort of, beat us to the punch here, which is fine. That's, we're late to the party. But I do know that there's some legs in this thing from a game standpoint. But because it's so rare, because the people who are interested in the game have created a demand. It's this vicious cycle. The people who are interested in the game created a demand for the game because of the game. And this usually happens with a lot of things. But the supply made other people go, oh, they want this and they can't have it, and maybe I need, so it evolves from the conversation being about the game to the conversation being about the value. And meanwhile, the people who want to play the game are being penalized because people who care about the value are getting too much attention.
Well, it's also the perfect storm of speculation as well, because you've come in at this COVID time when people are looking for alternative means of making money or alternative means of investing and stuff like that. They have more time on their hands, and Flesh and Blood sort of popped around that same time that lockdown happened because there was short supplies of everything.
Yeah.
And then that momentum sort of snowballed into this sort of, financing thing. And then once other parties hear about the dollar signs associated with $80 boxes, becoming $400 boxes in 2 weeks, there's going to be that effort and momentum. But I'm so concerned about the stability and community of the game. I know it's a fantastic game. I mean, I haven't played it because, like you said, it's near impossible to get. And in Canada, that's even more so. But yeah, it's unprecedented, the speculation and that we're seeing, that we haven't seen really in a collectible card game since 1994 of those sort of earlier Magic sets where people were buying in just for the sake of being able to flip it. It's and it's starting to trickle out to other areas of the collectible genre as well. Anything that got released this year is going to make a lot of money on those early sets, because there's just this fervor of speculation in collectible games at the moment, which 4 years ago you would have said laughed at the idea of.
And a lot of it, I do think you're right, is COVID. I think people I think it's less people looking to make money as people realizing here's something I can do with my spare time. You know, and you know, here's how I can be active and things like that. And then they look at, some influencer opens a box of Pokemon and suddenly everyone wants Pokemon. They can't get Pokemon. Say, well, what else can I look at? And then they look, oh, there's this flesh and blood thing, and oh, there's this thing, it's starting to hit Magic even a little bit, just a little bit. And everyone's sort of like, well, I can't do that. Like, there must be ways, and it's very much so. I worked at I mentioned Capital City Distribution. Their main thing was comic books. And I was right there during the comic book craze of the early 90s, the death of Superman and all that kind of stuff, where it was all speculation and alternate covers and all this other kind of stuff. And this giant balloon that just burst right shortly after I left the place to go into collectible card games, which is another balloon that just burst. And that balloon is blowing up again now. Something's going to give. But at the same time, I have been saying something's going to give about Magic for years now, and it just keeps going. It's amazing. It really is amazing. And just today, I'm sitting here with my general manager, and we are humming and hawing because we have to get our orders in for the Magic Forgotten Realms set, which is coming out in July. And as a D&Der I play Magic, but I'm not a Magic player. I'm super excited about this set, but it replaces, it's basically just a core set, and people and the Magic community is less enthusiastic about that. Other parts of the Magic community are less enthusiastic about it because you're getting my chocolate in your peanut butter, and you're mixing your D&D and your Magic. And I don't know how many D&D players are going to be like, oh, I guess I'll try some Magic. But maybe I'll get a Xanathar Beholder Planeswalker. I don't know if one of those is going to exist, but if WotC has any brains in their head, it better.
Mythic Beholder card or something.
Yeah. So and I'm sitting here like, I have absolutely no idea how this set's going to do at all. And I have to get my, and the hard thing with this sort of, crystal ball is no spoilers have been released. I'm not privy to any information. I just have to say, new set coming out. How many do you want? And then what happens? And
it's a new set.
Yep. And then it's stamped in there. It's locked in there. And in a few weeks, some spoilers will come out, and I'll know whether or not I was right or not. And so that is hitting every single aspect. It's become easy with some things. Pokemon, my Pokemon sort of expert, she says, how many do I order? And I say, as many as you can get. That used to not be the answer. The answer used to be, I don't know, 8-12 boxes maybe for this store. Now it's like, I don't know, get a few get whatever you can get. There's no wrong answer for Pokemon right now. That's a very dangerous thing to have to say,
Well, as a purveyor of history, the last time in collectible card games I heard that said was Legends for Magic, was the Dark for Magic, which then ended up being the Fallen Empires, which is aptly named Fallen Empires, where the bottom of the market fell out. So I do think we're in another, as you mentioned before, a bubble of sorts.
Yes.
Maybe not as,
I don't think it's,
maybe the contraction on the bubble isn't as heavy, but it's still there.
Right. And it's dangerous. And I do think, one of the very important things that I try to do as a retailer, and every retailer should do that, is diversify as much as possible, right? If all of your eggs are in the Magic basket or in the Pokemon basket, you should be very, very nervous right now. So we try to get, a little bit more. Jigsaw puzzles, right? Jigsaw puzzles are great, right? It's solid, not
perfect for Mother's Day.
Perfect for Mother's Day. Yeah. So, it's just kind of trying to figure out what the market is, what it's going to be, what it's going to turn into be. And at the same time, I am not one who sits and looks at TCG Player and finds out what the values of the cards are at this point. I'm in a number of retailer-centric groups, and some are a little more Magic-based, and every so often someone will say, hey, go look at the, this card, it's spiking right now. And all the other retailers are like, hey, thanks for letting me know, that kind of thing. And they're constantly looking at this secondary market thing. Thank God I don't have to spend my time doing that. But I mean, hey, I get it. There's a lot of money to be made for people who are interested in that kind of thing. now. I wouldn't recommend anybody get into it now, but but it's just not my passion. It's just not my thing. And it's difficult. It's like trying to sit down with all the cult stuff and come up with a game out of it. I'm just not into that aspect of the hobby. Yeah. And I have to be, and most of my staff are board gamers and role players, and they're not as sort of, laser focused into CCGs, except for my Pokemon people, as other stores. Everyone's got their own little niche. Yep. So it's a very interesting time to be a retailer from the collectible card game market, because it's wacky right now. It's just absolutely bonkers. And we just don't know how much it's gonna last. So yeah. But the games are all going to wait and see. Magic's not going to go away. Pokemon's not going to go away. Flesh and Blood might go away. Depends on how it goes. Keyforge, who knows? I think this set's going to be really interesting. If COVID wasn't happening, I think Keyforge would be super good. But
the difference with Keyforge, it does involve that, you said that partner sort of thing, because there is no collectability to it. Right. So that other side, that other half of the brain, that sort of like primal, like, I hate to say it, but greed aspect does not exist in that game.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So it will be interesting. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that very enlightening conversation that Bryan gave us about the speculation and about the unique situation that collectible card games are seeing right now. Is it a boom? Is there going to be a bust? Are we going to see a 2022 bust? I don't know. I hope, for the sake of everybody who's put a lot of money in these products, we don't see that extreme deflation like we did in 1996. The difference I see here is there is a lot more passion coming from the people behind some of these newer games, especially. Let's talk about Flesh and Blood. Let's talk about MetaZoo. These two companies have people who are very enthusiastic about driving their game, not maximizing profits, but seem to be very enthusiastic about putting out the best product that they can. And just through happenstance, they've been rewarded by the speculation. Let's hope that holds, but only time will tell. Anyway, I really like this little interview type mini episode. I don't know what I'll call it. Maybe something like the booster pack rare slot. And moving forward, I think I will do maybe the occasional short episode like this, where we will talk about something either topic-based, or I will extract it from an interview where it doesn't really fit, but has something more to do with the present day. So booster pack rare slot, if you have a topic or something you want to hear more about with collectible games, either at the moment, in the past, in the future, something more topic driven rather than strict hardcore sort of history stuff, let us know, and I will either answer that question or I will find somebody who is qualified to speak on that topic and they will talk to me about it. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks again for joining me. Again, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter at CCG History on Twitter, or CCG History, the Facebook page. Or you can leave a comment, of course, in this video below. Don't forget, check out Bryan's original episode. It's really enlightening, really unique experience he has had with collectible games. And if you love them, he does too. Check it out there. Okay, that's it for me. I'll see you for another episode. Again, I always love to hear your feedback. And don't forget, if you prefer to hear this as a podcast or any of our episodes as a podcast, they're available on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. You can find it there under The Booster Pack. Until then, catch you next time and keep shuffling.